Yeah, it's pretty
Did I
close.
get it? That's it? Oh,
It's good enough.
I don't know. I'm not used to having La 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 after my name, so it's
I'm not a big la 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 guy myself. I know that's probably
been to La
shocking.
La Land a couple of times. But other than that,
Lived in
you know,
La La Land.
La La. I'm
Yeah.
not really equipped. All right, welcome into the playbook.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. Right, precisely. John Rook, Evan Lazar is here. Coming up on the program, we'll also be joined by Mike DiRocco, who covers the Jags for ESPN.com. And we'll get the latest on the same kind of situation, I think, similar situation that the Jaguars are in as the Patriots are. But they're getting the second of two games back-to-back in London. So is that really an advantage? Do they need that advantage more than the Patriots do? Both teams are clearly looking at this like this is a winnable scenario.
Oh, yeah.
A winnable game. So we'll jump into that. Russell Baxter will be here for Week 7 around the NFL in the second hour of the program. And here's the other thing. Right as we get started here, by the way, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places. I want to open up the phones right off the bat. 855-PATS-500, 1-855-PATS-500, because I know we have a heavy contingent of fans in the UK.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they have their own X handle at UK Patriots, which I got to give the shout out to. One of our top podcasters and biggest fans of this show and your show and Patriots Unfiltered. Clazy Claire, she's all over Twitter. She's out there in the middle of East Bum or wherever the hell she's the front of. But I want to know who's going to the game. Who's actually taking the game in London?
Yeah, give me some recommendations.
Evan needs some recommendations because this is his first time in the UK, right?
Yeah, first time.
And second time to Europe. The first time was the German trip,
was Frankfurt.
Right?
Yeah,
Frankfurt, right?
So I'm checking off getting those passport stamps, so that's cool. I'm excited.
Ooh, all right, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
a big
excited.
Thing. But Evan needs recommendations on pubs. Do we
fish and chips?
Yeah, do we fish and chips or do we go banger and mash? I gotta admit, I'm a banger and mash guy. I've always liked it. I know that's a sort of an acquired taste for some people. Yeah. I actually enjoy a full English breakfast.
Nice.
Do you know what a full English breakfast includes?
I do not.
Somebody should call in and tell Evan about the full English
I know.
breakfast.
It just sounds very uncultured.
Actually, no. There's a part of it that you might find a little disturbing.
Oh.
The blood pudding part.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's not going to work for you?
I don't know.
No?
Don't think so. No. Obviously I'm sure we'll hit the pubs. I'm sure we can figure that out on our own.
We'll have a pint or two. Pint or two.
In all sincerity, I think the questions I have for people are, one, what's worth my time and what isn't in terms of sightseeing, because we're going to have a very finite window of sightseeing, so I don't want to waste my time doing like one of the tourist trap things that's not actually cool. And second, I am a big fish and chips guy. I love fish and chips in the summertime especially, so where can I get the best fish and chips in Wembley and London, wherever we're at. So those are the two places mostly.
Okay, so see, Ev needs your help. 855 PATS 500. The email address, podcasts@patriots.com. Podcasts, plural, with the S on the end of it, @patriots.com. Hit me up on Twitter, @JRBroadcaster if you want as well, and we'll get him the message. I think we really kind of have to start first and foremost by dialing back just a little bit here, only because of the significance of Drake Maye's debut.
Yep.
I'm sure you're like me in this regard, and you don't want to put a lot into it because you really shouldn't put a lot into it. But for a start, certainly wasn't bad. I think what it does, it also underscores the fact that, this team probably could have, probably even should have, in some instances, played him earlier when some of us were clamoring for him to play earlier in the process.
Some of us inappropriately.
But I also think I can understand, and at least Gerard Mayo was upfront about the need to hold him back a little because, and he admitted it, the offensive line was a shambles, and they weren't sure what they had.
Yeah.
But they got to a point where it's kind of like, hey, you need to bleep or get off the pot.
Yeah.
And they finally bleeped, and guess what? It worked.
For the most part, it worked. Yeah. Look, I mean, I've already waxed poetic about all the good things that he did on Sunday, on PU yesterday, and after further review, my written film review every week that I do. I think the biggest things that I saw on the tape that were so encouraging from his performance were, first of all of the physical attributes that we've talked about Drake Maye since the draft. Arm talent, mobility, out of structure playmaking, off script improvising, you want to call it whatever you want to call it. All those things, we got a little taste of all of that. We got the arm talent on the touchdown throw to Booty. We got the off script playmaking on the throw to Hunter Henry. We got even other instances, another throw that I don't think is talked about enough because the game was a little bit out of hand. 4th down late in the game, he throws a stick route out to Pop Douglas across the field on 4th down to convert a 4th down late in the game. That other quarterbacks, that they just can't get that ball there. That throw is jumped, and that's a pick 6 for a lot of QBs, not for the quarterback that was throwing the ball on Sunday for the Patriots. So the arm talent, the mobility, the playmaking. He had multiple explosive plays that he was a part of. 40-yard touchdown, 35-yard touchdown. They were not making those types of plays before. They weren't making those types of plays last year. They weren't making those types of plays 2 years ago.
Right.
So he has that ability to be able to do that. I'd also say some of the nuanced stuff was really impressive. The full field progressions, the coverage manipulation, little pump fakes and eye manipulation, moving defenders and things like that. All of that stuff really was excellent. I thought his decisions were mostly good. His eyes were mostly in the right places. Now, with all that being said, and we talked to him today because it's a double-edged sword with him a little bit. He's a rookie. He's going to have some peaks and valleys.
Yep.
The things that he seemed to lament on the most in the conversations that I've had with him are some of the available throws that he missed. Some of the errant throws that he had in the game to open receivers, and the sacks. He felt like he took too many sacks in the game. The errant throws, he comes out, he throws a pick, to Pop Douglas over the middle of the field. Said that he was a little hyped up. First career start, juices were going, and he just kind of airmailed it. You
can kind of excuse some of that just because you've got to realize that he's probably overamped anyway.
Yeah.
In that kind of a situation, there were a couple of what the hell was that passes
right.
thrown? But all right, I'm even willing to excuse the turnovers.
Yeah.
The fumble not so much as the interceptions, because you're getting used to the interceptions. I think those, believe it or not, are a little bit more overcomable. A fumble is so much more intimidating than a pick anyway.
Yeah.
I think that can play in your mind a heck of a lot more than an interception can if you're looking at it from a quarterback's perspective. So, was it perfect? No. But all things being equal, considering the lamenting that we'd been doing over the offensive line, relatively unscathed.
Yeah, so it's worth noting, and this was something that I had said beforehand when everybody is talking about how bad this offensive line is and how you shouldn't play Drake behind this offensive line because he's going to get hurt or he's going to develop bad habits. On Sunday, even with all of the people in and out of the lineup that they had, they lose Vidarian Lowe 10 snaps into the game. Zach Thomas has to go in at left tackle. They allowed a season low 33% pressure rate on the quarterback. I don't think that's a coincidence, and I'm not trying to pick on Jacoby Brissett.
What's the average per on a quarterback per week in the NFL? What's the average?
Around 30%.
About 30?
Yeah.
So 33 is not out of the ordinary.
No,
okay.
and so 33% pressure rate was by far the lowest of the season.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a coincidence that they got a guy in there in Drake Maye who is a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more of a playmaker back there.
And knows how to slip into it and find the pocket.
Yeah, all of a sudden, not that the line was perfect, because it certainly wasn't, but all of a sudden it looks a little bit better because you have somebody back there. I think that's the number one thing that I look at now moving forward, because now it's all about building, right? We saw last week, it was his first time out. How does he improve? How does he get better? I don't think that teams are going to be able to just sit in man-to-man and blitz the Patriots anymore. That was the book on them for the first 5 weeks of the season, is that we're going to go man-to-man across the board because they don't have great receivers. We're going to pressure the heck out of the quarterback because he can't, mitigate pressure back there, and we're going to sink their offense that way. Now, when you play man-to-man against Drake Maye, you have a 40-yard touchdown, you have a 35-yard touchdown, you have another 17-yard completion, you have a 15-yard scramble, all of this happening against man-to-man coverage. So he's one of those guys that is going to change how defenses play the Patriots. Now, it may take a couple more weeks of him showing that you can't do that. You know, you can't just dare him to beat man-to-man coverage. But I bet you soon here, teams are going to start to back off. They're going to see the bombs. They're going to have to back off. They're going to have to stop blitzing as much. And now all of a sudden, watch, the run game might get a little bit better. The short passing game might be more available. And things will start to open up a little bit for this offense.
So let's then kind of, take it apart here piece by piece. Quarterback right now is not an issue, whereas it was an issue very much so earlier in the year. Right now, the offensive line, even though it's still sort of a scrambled egg omelet, if you will, up front, there might be some hope for some stability. I was stunned at Ben Brown's performance.
Yeah.
2 days off of, the Raiders practice squad, he comes in and starts a game, which I think, in any other world, we'd be screaming about this week. Like, oh my God, where's this guy been?
Yeah.
Because he provided some stability. He's played the position. When Cole Strange gets healthy, we know he's going to work out at that position.
Yep.
They want him to eventually, potentially, slide over and provide depth, if nothing else. And if you're able to get Vidarian Lowe back, if you're able to, and I can't believe I'm saying that, in that form, but and I don't mean that negatively. It's kind of like, with all the jumbling going along, he wasn't one of the better guys, but it looks like now that he's getting reps, he's starting to at least develop into his role somewhat, and left tackle has been the absolute Achilles heel for this team all year on that line. But we've seen other issues all across it.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's a semblance of a line there. My issue with the offensive line right now is, how about run blocking, guys? Because there was nothing for Antonio Gibson last week, nothing for JaMychal Hasty last week, and they need Ramondre Stevenson back in there, fumbleitis or not.
Yeah, it's a good point about the run game. They struggled mightily in run blocking in this game. Really just didn't run block anything well, whether it was the zone stuff or the gap stuff or, any of the shotgun runs that they tried to run. Now that you have Drake Maye back there and you're running like RPO and stuff like that with a mobile quarterback.
Is that because they were so worried about pass protection?
No, I just don't think that they have the horses. Like you have guys up front that haven't played, haven't practiced, haven't repped with this group yet. Run blocking is a methodical thing, right? It's like all the pieces fitting together into the puzzle, and everybody's got to be on the same sort of wavelength, and you got to be on a string and all that kind of cliche stuff. So when you have a group that has let's call him a Zach Thomas, a fifth string left tackle at this point, fourth string, fifth string left tackle. Yeah. You have a center that you just signed off a practice squad that's starting a game for you 3 days later. Those guys haven't practiced, they haven't repped, they haven't done any of these things, and that showed out in the game for sure. I mean, they were not executing at all in the running game.
Well, I know that they had their practice this afternoon already, which I guess you got a peek at, and looks like there are 3 guys that likely may not be around to play in the game or even make the trip. The one that I get, and Ramondre's one of those, correct?
Correct.
And then the other one that kind of surprised me a little bit is Marcus Jones.
Yeah, so he was on the injury report last week with a groin injury. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's related. I don't believe he left the game on Sunday with any sort of injury.
Yeah, he played. He looked normal. He looked fine. He actually had a couple of good returns.
The injury report says this afternoon. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. It could be anything, right? It could be an illness. Could be personal. It could be anything. So we'll see what the injury report brings here this afternoon. But Ramondre Stevenson, a foot injury is what they're calling it. That seems like he is still maybe not ready to be back yet. And I do think that obviously with the run game is a factor in what they did last week. And then you look at left tackle. My guess is that we're going to see this line put in a blender yet again. We'll probably have Trey Jacobs flip sides from right to left. He'll probably start the game at left tackle, Onwenu at right tackle, back out to right tackle, and then you put Sidy Sow or Layden Robinson into the starting lineup at right guard. Would be my guess. So we're blending it up and spitting it out again.
So this will be 7 different starting lineups in 7 weeks.
7 and 7. That would be Jacobs has started a game at left tackle already, so it wouldn't be a new left tackle in that sense, but they've started 4 different left tackles already in 7 weeks. They have 7-7 in terms of their line combinations. Now, the one silver lining is that this is not a very good Jacksonville pass rush. They're 30th in the league in pressure rate. They had those 2 bookend edge rushers, and that's about it. That's really their entire production.
Which might directly go up against the Patriots' Achilles heel on offense.
Yeah, but, and look, they haven't done a ton of it, so I say this lightly, but you can chip, you can help, you can double, you can leave the tight end in, you can 6-0 line and go eligible and double Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker or both guys. This is one criticism that I would have so far of Alex Van Pelt. This West Coast type of system, they're very big in getting 5 guys into the pattern. They want all 5 receivers into the pattern is massive a part of this scheme. And so they are not big on helping.
You can't do that if you need to hold back and block.
Right. So I'm clamoring for, okay, you have a great pass rusher in Will Anderson and another really good one in Daniel Hunter you're going up against last week. You look at their pass blocking reps, and again, it wasn't terrible. I gave you the stat earlier. They only double-teamed those guys a combined 4 times in the entire game.
Okay.
Yeah, that to me is coaching. That to me is direction, is, let's have a plan. Josh Hines-Allen is a really, really explosive, twitchy edge rusher for Jacksonville. Trayvon Walker, freak athlete, former number 1 overall pick in the draft a couple years ago. Those 2 guys can wreck a game. A couple weeks ago, Trayvon Walker had 3 sacks and 7 quarterback pressures against Indianapolis, right? Like, he can single-handedly wreck a game. So if you allow that to happen and you put Trey Jacobs on an island for 4 quarters with Trayvon Walker, then you're asking for it. Like, you're asking for trouble.
Yep. Okay, I want to go back for just a second, more specifically on the Houston game rather than the Jaguars game coming up for a specific reason, because most of the aftermath after Sunday, the Patriots got beat by 20 points.
Sure did.
Okay? They gave up 41, which now we can really tell what the middle of that Patriots defense was before they lost 2 to injury and lost Jabril Peppers to the exempt list.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys really meant to this team up the middle. I mean, they're everything. And, 3 starters, 3 bona fide starters, 3 even all-pro caliber players being taken out of your lineup, you're going to struggle, and the Patriots showed that mightily. I don't know if the Patriots have the capability of filling in the gap for those guys. So, hey, on defense, they got to slow somebody down. They got to stop somebody. They did not do that this last week. Jacksonville is still capable.
Yeah, I agree. I look at this Jaguars offense, and I know they're underperforming, just like the Patriots defense is underperforming, because they've invested a ton into that offense. I mean, they have a $55 million quarterback. So they've invested a ton of resources into offense.
Which is what we hope the Patriots do in the next year or 2, right?
First-round pick on a receiver. They signed Gabe Davis in free agency. They already have Christian Kirk. They have Evan Ingram at tight end, who's a really good receiving tight end. This is a capable group that is getting in their own way. They're dropping passes. They are fumbling at the end of runs, on explosive plays. Trevor Lawrence has had some untimely interceptions. Like, they're really beating themselves in these games, and it's not a talent issue, I wouldn't say, with Jacksonville. So they can flip a switch. They might be able to figure this out here for themselves at some point. So looking at the Patriots defense, I mean, John, if I told you when the season started that the Patriots would be a bottom 5 defense statistically this year.
No, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah, so they're 29th in DVOA on defense right now. Bottom 5. Bottom 5 defense. Bottom 5 defense on third down.
That shows you how much those guys that they lost are valuable.
It's valuable, but I would just say that
the others that are in there aren't doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah, in some respects, you can, if you want to sit here and chalk it up to injuries and say that that's what's going on, then it's more than valid. But I would say that to me, the majority of this is on coaching, because last year this defense, after basically 12 quarters of football, lost Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon for the year in Dallas in week 3 against the Cowboys. They went on to be a top 10 defense in the league, even without those 2 guys, without their best pass rusher and their top corner. And they were still held it together. Now, they had some easier matchups. Paul Perillo would tell you that, right? He always throws that in my face.
Of course.
That they had the Tommy DeVitos and the Gardner Minshew's of the world. And, Los Angeles and the Justin Herbert here and the pouring rain and like all these other factors. But statistically, the bottom line is that they were a top 10 defense last year in the NFL. They are now 29th in the league in DVOA. They went from 9th to 29th.
Yeah.
So that to me has to point somewhat to coaching. And the two areas that I would point to specifically, one, their unblocked pressure rate. So like how much are they generating guys, free runners to the quarterback on blitzes, right? Where there's nobody blocking somebody and he comes through the line clean. Mm-hmm. They went last year with Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick. They were number one in the league in generating free runners to the quarterback. Almost 10% of the time they were on a blitz, they were generating a free pass rusher to the quarterback. This year they are 26th in the league. So they're not scheming up pressure as well as they used to.
I can make the same argument offensively. They're not scheming up things that they should be doing to move the football and get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're almost overly simplistic on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And that's where I agree with you in terms of coaching. But is it because the coaches have been told to, quote-unquote, dumb it down, or is it because they just are inexperienced and they don't know enough?
So I would give some of that credence to the offensive side of the ball because Kurt Warner had an interesting tweet this week about he watched the film to see Drake Maye and analyze Drake Maye, and his point was how simple some of the concepts were in the passing game for the Patriots. But when you have an offensive line like the Patriots do, like you're not going to be drawing up these elongated, exotic passing concepts that are going to take like 3.5 seconds to develop down the field because the quarterback doesn't have that kind of time in the pocket. But on the defensive side of the ball, for the most part, and I get it, they have some new players that are playing bigger roles. But for the most part, there's a lot of continuity on the defensive side of the football. Like it's still kind of the same guys on that side of the field. Like
just different coaches.
Yeah, like who's really playing a role,
with the exception of Steve Belichick.
Yeah, who's really playing a role on defense right now that wasn't on the team last year? I'm not saying that maybe the role's larger, right? Maybe he's playing more, but playing a regular contributor to this defense that was not a Patriot in 2023. Mm-hmm. There really aren't that many of them. Mm-hmm. So they have all these guys have been in the building. All these guys have been here. All these guys have played good football in their past, and they're just not playing good football right now.
Probably can be said for the other side of the ball as well. I know Mike DiRocco is with us from ESPN Jacksonville, so I want to bring him into the program. Let me see if I can get this thing done right here. Yes, there we are. Mike, welcome into the program. John Rook and Evan Lazar here in Foxborough.
How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
We're great. Appreciate you. Are you in London with the Jags?
No, I am not. I did not make the trip this year. Wish I had, but not fortunately. I'm sitting here in 70-degree weather in the sunshine, so I'm not going to complain about that.
I can't say that that's necessarily a bad thing right now, especially when you consider, as we just said, the fortunes of these two teams going on right now. So there's a lot of similarities between these two teams other than just the fact that they're 1-5. So what right now is what's the panic button in Jacksonville from their point of view going into this game with New England, which certainly they have to feel like, hey, this is one of those get-right games?
Yeah, I don't get a sense, panic on the face of the Jaguars at this point from their point of view. This team was 2-6 and 3-7 at one point in 2022. And they rallied back to win the AFC South at 9-8 and beat the Chargers in that playoff game. And, there's this feeling here that they still have that, hey, we turned it around once before, we can do it again. But the problem is they were in that situation last year and didn't get it done. And at 1-5, they're clearly not getting it done. And, they've got some issues all over the place, both sides of the ball, that don't look like you could get fixed at any point this season, to be honest with you. So yeah. I think there's a little bit of whistling in the dark there from maybe the franchise's standpoint. Now, panic level here in Jacksonville is pretty much off the charts. They're calling for Doug Peterson's head. They're calling for Balky's head. And there's a lot of people here calling for Mac Jones, believe it or not, and to put Trevor Lawrence on the bench. So, we can go. I mean, let that give you an idea of where things are in Jacksonville at this point.
I was just going to ask, if you could put odds on Mac Jones making an appearance in this game, what would they be?
I think, barring an injury, it would have to be a situation like last week where the game's completely out of control, out of hand. The Patriots are winning big, or the Jags are winning big, and it's mop-up duty. I mean, there's zero chance that Doug Peterson is going to bench Trevor Lawrence. I think if he benched Trevor Lawrence and decided to give Mac Jones a start, I think Shad Khan might boot him out of the building immediately. I mean, that's their guy. Owner loves him. They just gave him that huge contract. You run the risk of maybe losing the team if you do that. And some would argue that they're probably at that point right now anyway in terms of Doug Peterson losing the locker room. But, other than, like I said, an injury or game out of hand, I don't think we see Mac Jones.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that, but, man, would that provide some juice around here.
Yeah, well, you know what? It'd give us all something to write and talk about, for sure, which is different. You know what I mean?
Isn't that, Mike, isn't that why we're here? That's why we're here. Oh, my God. It'd be like the world is ending almost, right?
Yeah, something different, not like, hey, why did they lose? Well, the same reason they lost the other 5 games. We can only talk about it so much. It's the same thing every week.
No doubt. No doubt at all. Tell us in particular, and we obviously know a little about, quarterback, receivers, even running backs a bit on the offensive side, even though there have been some ups and downs there. But why has this Jacksonville team deteriorated, really, defensively, especially this year, to the point where they're right now not a contender when they were expected to be?
Yeah, I was looking up some numbers the other day. They're on pace to have the second worst defense in franchise history in terms of yards per game allowed and points per game allowed. The only team that's worse is the 2020 team that went 1-15. So that tells you how bad things have gotten here. And, they've had some injuries. Tyson Campbell, their number one corner, is out. He should be back this week, but he missed 4 games after suffering a hamstring injury. Foye Oluokun, their leading tackler, basically the quarterback of the defense, middle linebacker there, he's been out. He's going to be out a couple more weeks. So that's an issue. That's a foot injury. So those are 2 guys that they're really counting on. And then I guess the 2 biggest problems have been the safety play. Andre Sisco and Antonio Johnson it's been really bad back there. And you could see it a couple of weeks ago against Indianapolis. Guys are running wide open. They're up 14 points in the fourth quarter, and guys are running wide open, easy touchdown passes from Joe Flacco, to Alec Pierce, for goodness sake. And the other issue has been they've just not gotten a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They were counting on more interior pressure from guys like, Roy Robertson Harris, who they just traded, Devon Hamilton. They drafted Mason Smith out of LSU in the second round. They really haven't gotten much push in the interior of that defensive line. They signed Eric Armstead, who, has been a really good pass rusher in his career from the interior as a tackle. And they've decided, we're going to play him at defensive end. We want him to be at defensive end. That was sort of what we promised them to sign him here. And he's hit the quarterback 1 time in 6 games, and that was in the opener. That's it. So Josh Hines Allen, has been his normal self in terms of pressure rate and pressures. He just hasn't really finished sack-wise. And Trayvon Walker's got 5 sacks, but he had 3 in 1 game. And that was probably the best game of his career, the Colts game. And then, the bigger issue with him has sort of been disappearing in games at times. And last week was certainly one of them. So bad play on the safety end, lack of pressure up front, and, those injuries to 2 really key guys have really kind of hurt this defense. And, there's as you guys know, this isn't like a college roster with 120 guys on it. Those guys are gone. There's no help on the way until they get back. And you just got to hope that Foye Oluokun can get back into this lineup in the next couple of weeks.
That's why I kind of found the fact that Roy Robertson Harris was traded just after the loss to the Bears this past weekend. And, okay, you're getting some compensation in return, but how surprising was that to you, number one? And number two, do you think that might have been a shot fired across the bow by Doug Peterson to everybody else?
I think there might have been a little bit of a message in that, for sure. I mean, you're trading a guy in London, and, oh, by the way, you're sending him to Seattle, which is literally the furthest place you could send him from London. So
hope he gets frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, exactly. They've got some young guys. One of the issues that, the GM talked about last year was onboarding, which is their term of, hey, they weren't playing enough young guys and young draft picks. Doug Peterson, the coaching staff, didn't have a ton of confidence in some of those guys, didn't feel like they were ready to really contribute. And the GM was like, hey, look, we've got these young guys here. They got to play, because how do you know if they're any good if they don't play? And, I mentioned Mason Smith as a young defensive tackle. Jordan Jefferson, was a guy they drafted in the 4th round, also out of LSU. They want to get him on the field more. Miles Cole, their 7th-round pick, who, Trent Baalke drafted because he has long arms and is athletic. And they want those guys on the field. And Roy really wasn't playing at a high level anyway, so they figured, you know what, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, send a little bit of a message, maybe get him out of here, stockpile some draft picks, and let's get these young guys on the field.
Seems to me that, that was the one spot, I guess, based on my limited knowledge of the Jaguars, that there was a little depth at defensive tackle. Guys were splitting reps, so now you'll get more definitive reps maybe from some of those younger guys, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's depth. I don't know how good depth it is, but it is depth. And, we'll see. There's a lot of rotating going on there. Ryan Nielsen, the defensive coordinator, is a big believer in that. They rotate pretty heavily all along the defensive front. And when Foye Oluokun was healthy, they were even rotating linebackers at times and taking him off the field, which didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. But, he's big on the rotation there. Now, like I said, they've got some young guys that should be able to get a lot more playing time.
Mike, I just wanted to ask you, go back to Trevor for a second, because, I was watching that Bears game, and, he played pretty well, I thought, in that game. Like, threw 3 touchdown passes. All his receivers are dropping balls at left and right, things like that. It's kind of, I understand when you're in it, and trust me, we know this from around here the last couple years, that fans are knee-jerk and want to bench the guy, just because of the production. But to me, it doesn't look like Trevor's the problem. Like, would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, if I'm ranking a list of problems with this franchise right now and why the season's gone in the toilet, he would not be in the top 4 or 5. Now, that doesn't mean he has to play better, and he has to play more consistent, and he knows that, and he has to be I think his biggest issue has been missing some throws that he should be making. There were a couple of throws in the Houston game that he had wide open guys down the field for big plays, including one that could have been a really deep touchdown, and he just missed the throw badly. He threw a bad interception against the Bills when he was in a clean pocket. Nobody was around him, and he just airmailed a throw. So he's got to become more consistent, and he's got to start making on a regular basis those big-time throws. Now, he did that last week against the Bears, like you said, and they dropped 4 potential touchdown passes, which is, like, I've never seen that in a game before. I mean, I've been covering football a long time, college, pro. I mean, I've never seen a team drop 4 potential touchdown passes in one game. And then you look the week before against Indianapolis. I mean, he nailed all of his long throws, including the one to Brian Thomas Jr., who took it, 85 to the house there. So he's got his issues for sure. I don't know that they're doing the things right now that would be best for him. He's a rhythm passer, always has been. And if you go back to 2022, they prioritized getting the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. They rolled him out. He's really good when he throws on the run. They ran a lot of crossers, too, to kind of identify where they, coverages and tried to spring some guys across the middle of the field. They've got 2 really good guys that can thrive there with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, and they really don't do any of that anymore. They want to go down the field more. That's sort of what their philosophy was going to be this year, with Gabe Davis adding him from the Bills, and certainly with Brian Thomas Jr., who I think is going to be the real deal over the next several years. But the problem with that is you need more time to make those throws. And until the last couple of weeks, that offensive line, as a whole, hadn't played great. The tackles were not very good at all. But the last 2 weeks, the line's played much better. The two tackles have played much better. So he's had a little bit more time to throw. But I still think he needs to be in a rhythm, and that's got to be a priority for them against the Patriots. Get him going early, those short, quick throws, and get the offense moving.
Sounds very eerily similar to what the Patriots want to try to do with Drake Maye.
Best way to handle a young quarterback that's struggling is try and get him confidence, because we all know how fleeting that is in this league. And if you can get the offense rolling early and you can get a guy feeling pretty good and you hit a couple of plays here and there, who knows?
What is the one thing in your estimation that the Jaguars are doing right now?
Yeah, okay. That's actually a good question.
I'm capable every now and then.
I'll say this. I think their run game, as long as it's not in 3rd and 4th and 1, is pretty good. Tank Bigsby has been a pleasant surprise. He's leading the league in yards per carry. I think it's 7.2 yards per carry. He's going to get a ton more work now with Travis Etienne out with a hamstring injury. So they're doing that pretty well. And, when you're a 1-5 team, there's not a lot of stuff you're doing well. But I'll say this, Logan Cook is one of the better punters in the league. And I've used to joke about this for years until they started to get a little better, was like there's nobody else on that roster who consistently performs at a high level and does exactly what they ask him to do every single time than Logan Cook, the punter. So he's, been his normal self, and he's probably, another consistent bright spot for them. And the young rookie kicker who has a huge leg, he's built like a 15-year-old kid. I mean, he walked by him, and he looks like he's a sophomore in high school, and he's just got this cannon for a leg, and kicks. He's in training camp. He was routine banging him, over 60 yards, and it was pretty impressive to watch. So, they're not doing a whole heck of a lot well, but those would probably be the things that they've done well, which is what you kind of expect out of a 1-5 team.
Yeah, and so at 1-5, and things going, a little south, certainly not to anybody's expectation before the season started. What kind of ice is Doug Peterson and or his staff, what are they skating on right now?
I think it's getting thinner, but I don't. Shad Khan is very, very patient with his head coaches. The only one he wasn't patient with was Urban Meyer, and that was a move he had to make. Yeah. He really wanted to keep Urban Meyer more than one season, but Urban basically left him no choice.
Yeah.
So I don't see him getting fired. There's a lot of talk around here that if they get beat by the Patriots on Sunday, he gets fired on Monday when they get back from London. I don't see it. I'm not hearing any of that from the people that I'm talking to. Could it happen at the bye week in November? I mean, if there's still only 1 or 2 wins, that's a possibility. But Doug Peterson said, Shad Khan said last weekend, hey, look, I still believe in Doug Peterson. I still believe in Trent Baalke. And that, I guess we could call that the dreaded vote of confidence. But, I watched him hold on to Gus Bradley for a year longer than he probably should have. I watched him hold on to Doug Marrone a year longer than he probably should have. So it wouldn't surprise me if, at the end of this season, he doesn't make a move, and instead they decide, we're just going to regroup and figure out, our personnel issues and go from there. But then that would make 2025 probably a do or die for Doug Peterson.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff, Mike. Hey,
thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for spending some time with us. We sure appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thanks a lot.
You got it. That's Mike DiRocco. You can get him at ESPN DiRocco, DiRocco. You want to follow him on X. I got a couple of quick things before I got to let you go.
Yes.
All right, so you can get out of here.
All good.
Number one, overall, when you go into this thing and you look at the opportunity that's presented here with all of the pluses of Drake Maye's performance and then all of the negatives we've seen, the defense now a concern, the offensive line is still not straight, the running backs can't hold on to the ball, we've got some dropsies now within the wide receiving core and the tight ends as well, that's happened as well. So what constitutes success this week? Is it win or bust, or are we still at the, hey, we're taking baby steps stage?
Well, I look at this Jaguars defense, and I would be pretty disappointed if the Patriots didn't score some points on this Jaguars defense on Sunday. I mean, Mike kind of laid it out for us perfectly just now. They are dead last in every single category against the pass. What do you want to go raw passing yards, DVOA, EPA, whatever metric you want to use to evaluate their passing defense, it's the worst in the league across the board. So this is a unit that's giving up almost 280 yards a game through the air. So the Patriots should have some opportunities to throw the ball in this game, especially with the positives that Drake Maye showed us last week. They're no longer this passing offense that's incapable of having a 300-yard passing game. That is right there at their fingertips. Last week he throws for 240 and 3 touchdowns, and he missed some throws in the game that he could have made that could have put it even closer to a 300 passing yards performance. Now, in terms of the wins and loss and the final score and all that, I don't know yet what that accumulates to for them. I think turnovers obviously will play a big role in that, but I would be disappointed if they don't have some fun in the passing game on Sunday. This is not a good Jaguars defense. This is not a good Jaguars pass defense, and this is now a Patriots offense that is capable of hitting some big plays down the field in the passing game with Maye at quarterback. So I don't want to put too much pressure on him in his second career start, but I look at this as like a pretty juicy matchup, like one he should be licking his chops and saying, we can have this defense.
Right, and it could be a very competitive, even an entertaining game.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't necessarily expect that from 2 1-5 teams.
Yeah, that's exactly how I look at it. And I don't want to get too carried away and pick, 43-40 and some crazy shootout between 2 1-5 teams.
Yeah, let's not get carried away.
But at the same time, I look at the strengths and the weaknesses.
Sure.
Just the weaknesses of the Jaguars defense, the ability to throw the ball down the field that the Patriots now have with Maye. And then I come back to the Jaguars offense. I feel like the Jaguars offense is shooting themselves in the foot, not that they're anemic. Like, they have a really good quarterback. They have really good skill players. They just need to get out of their own way. The Patriots defense not playing very well right now. So I add all of this formula up, and I think this game could be higher scoring than people think. I really do.
Okay. The second thing is a little bit of news that broke overnight, as I'm sure you're aware of. We haven't mentioned it here because, frankly, we're not sure of anything other than what we've seen in the media thus far.
Right.
So I don't want to regurgitate what the media is reporting, but for those that are uninitiated, that are not aware of what happened last night, at 1:22 in the morning, Christian Barmore tweeted out over on his X account, "I just experienced for the first time 5 Providence cops being very unprofessional, racism at its finest." That was the quote. That was it. There was no explanation. There was no, there was no nothing after that. Several sources have reported, our brethren in the news media here, that he was cited with 3 traffic violations, had his car towed, and got into a little bit of a spitting match with these officers. Now, we weren't there. We don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm going to try to look at this big picture-wise so this process can vet. We've just had the issue a couple of weeks ago with Jarrell Peppers. And now Christian Barmore, is out, in the late night, early hours of the morning. To me, and this is my opinion.
Yeah.
This speaks directly to discipline.
Yeah.
And that's something that it's not existed on this team, not like it had previously under a different regime. And we've seen this lack of discipline, I think, bleed over into play on the field, especially the last couple of weeks. I'm not trying to compare racism to penalty flags being thrown. But what I am saying is that overall there's a mindset here that, it's okay, I'll be playing anyway. And 21 accepted penalties in the last 2 weeks. And now you've got 2 guys, 2 of your 3 starters on defense that you need to have in your lineup. And obviously Christian was out with the blood clots, but at the same time, I'm not sure where else to take this other than somebody needs to be held accountable here.
Yeah, I always have a tough time with these because we don't have all the information, and I don't want to speculate and be taken out of context or anything on it. But I think the slight pushback I guess I would have is, like, they've certainly had their issues off the field in the past, and I don't know if this is a direct reflection on Gerard Mayo per se, It's hard with the history that this team has had with some of these things in the recent past.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a direct reflection on anybody.
Yeah, to just say that it
is reflection of the collective group and the collective effort when you see play on the field unchecked. And, Ramondre was not immediately jerked out of games after he fumbled the ball, which we would have seen previously. And I'm just saying the track record is such that, that happened and usually corrections were made. I know Gerard even came out today in his press conference and said, hey, we're going to make some changes.
Yeah.
We're going to start, quote unquote, holding people accountable. Okay, great. But if it doesn't work, then what? Then what do you do?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Just to stick with the football side of it, I would just, when you have a team that doesn't have a great roster, that's not super talented in terms of their roster, guys like Ramondre Stevenson, guys like a Jalen Polk, for instance, guys that are these guys they need these players, and there's an element of let's hold accountability and culture and like all that kind of stuff, but the bottom line is that the Patriots need Ramondre Stevenson. They need him. So they're going to have to go through some of the lumps that he's gone through in the early season with the fumbling and things like that. They're not a team that has all this talent on the offensive side of the ball that they can make an example out of Ramondre Stevenson and bench him for, an entire game or bench him for multiple games like he got benched his rookie season when he had some fumbling issues by Bill Belichick. They're just not in that position, so it's a tough spot, I would say, to be in from a coaching staff perspective, because it's like he gives us the best chance to win. He's going through some lumps. If we pull him out of the lineup, now there goes our run game, right? And so it's like, what are we going to do at that point? There's really no easy answer. I have a tough time with these things because I'm not sure what's going on with Peppers and with Barmore off the field, and I don't want to speculate. In terms of the football, I definitely believe that a lot of their issues with penalties, with fundamentals, with missed tackling and like things like that, those are kind of signs of a bad football team. Like when you're 1-5 operation, this league is not necessarily all just about the high level stuff, right? Like when teams are bad and they're 1-5 and currently have the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year, like that's not just because there's this massive talent gap every Sunday. They were not that much worse than that Miami team that was in here a couple weeks ago.
No.
But the problem is that when you have these bad habits, like that's how you lose games. Not every game is a 20-point blowout. You're going to lose a game by a field goal. You're going to lose a game by 5 points. You're going to lose a game in overtime to Seattle. Like those things are indicative of what poor football teams do.
Yeah, but if you pay attention to detail, if you button it up, in other words, those opportunities should turn themselves around. We've seen that over years. With different coaching staffs, not just one here, but with other teams. Teams button themselves up and they follow, discipline. I mean, because as we all know, that's what it usually takes to be successful in this world. I mean, geez, look what happened in Dallas right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Jones is threatening to fire reporters off of his own talk show.
Yeah.
Because they're asking him tough questions that he just doesn't want to answer anymore. And so before we get to that point around here where they want to fire all of us here, I'd just be curious to wonder, all right, so really, what are we doing to address this issue? Because not only on the field, but now off the field, it's becoming an issue.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a distraction. If you can have a distraction for a 1-5 team, it is.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. When it comes to the fundamentals and stuff on the field, I continue to harp. You have to point to the coaching. You have to point to the coaching, and I don't know if I'm necessarily one of those guys that's, we got to draw a hard line and we got to start benching people or whatever. I don't know if it's necessarily that, but highly penalized teams are typically bad teams.
Yeah.
And usually that's because you're overwhelmed, right? Like you're getting beat. In the trenches, you're an offensive lineman and you feel yourself getting beat. So what do? You go and you grab the guy and you hold him, right? You're in pass defense and someone's running by you. So what do? You hold them, right? Like those are penalties that are because you are not as good as the guys that are lining up across from you. So that's I don't necessarily go anywhere that's like a dark place with all that kind of stuff. I just think that's indicative of talent in a roster that just isn't as good as some of their opposition, and they are going to get called for a lot of penalties. I would also mention, and this is just my opinion, I think the officiating in the league has been terrible.
Oh, I mean, we could go on and on and on about that one, because there were some calls by Ron Torbert's crew last week that defied description. The one missed face mask on Antonio Gibson. Yep. Holy smokes, it happened right in front of me.
Yeah.
And the line judge was in perfect position to make that call.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you not looking at? It was incredible.
Yeah, so they call the pass interference on Mapu in the end zone,
yeah,
which I've watched about 100 times.
I can't find the pass interference either, Evan. I can't find it.
They missed the face mask on Antonio Gibson. I think it's a play or two later is the strip sack.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that it wouldn't have happened anyways, but it's a domino effect, right? Like if you get the 15-yard penalty and now you're 1st and 10 from the 45.
It's like bad begats bad.
Yeah, it just, all of that has a ripple effect on the game.
Yeah.
And the holding calls, not just with the Patriots, like league-wide. If I see another big run called back because of holding on like the backside of the play, the left tackle's holding, but they're running right, off the right guard.
Yeah.
It's like, does that really, did that really have that big of an impact on this play?
I'm thinking of Marv Levy's quote, from NFL Films, calling the official an over-officious jerk.
Yeah, it just, as a fan of the sport and as a fan of football, I'm not signing up to see the laundry.
No.
Like so every single time that there's a big play, you're looking around on the screen
to see if there's a flag that's going to call it back.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just not a good product.
The officials are becoming the story of the game.
Yeah.
This is not what the National Football League wants. If they're doing this because they think it's going to ostensibly create more offense because they're worried about scoring being down this year, wrong. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to slow the pace down. It's going to frustrate people. They're going to turn the sport off. Because they want to see free-flowing football.
Yeah, there was in the Miami game 2 weeks ago, there was 8 holding calls between the two teams in that game, and I'm not talking about like defensive holding in the secondary, like holding like offensive line holding on 73, 10-yard penalty, and it's just like I don't need to, it's not all holding.
It's not.
It's not all holding. So that's my rant on the officials. It's been rough.
No, it's fine to rant because I think everybody's joining you in that rant. I was ranting. I'm sure everywhere fans are ranting on this, and this is not just conducive to the Patriots. This is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally everywhere. Every team has a gripe, has a bitch about the officiating. So the NFL needs to take a step back and say, what are we doing here? And are we calling it to the letter of the law? Are we calling it to favor this, to favor that? There's got to be some fine-tuning and some tweaking here. You brought up a great point. A weak hold on the backside of a play that goes the opposite direction or, of the field. I'm like, why are we making these calls? Why are we throwing things that don't have an effect on the play?
Yeah.
Now, if it endangers a player's safety, all right, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like if it's a cut block or something like that, I could see that.
Right.
But if it has no effect on the play and it's not keeping the person who is offended from making a tackle or making a play, why are we calling it? This is where the officials need to be like fans and understand that what we want to see is football and not the laundromat.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. It's been on my mind a lot. It's
Yep.
The holding calls, especially in the trenches, I'm talking about.
I'm going to ask Russell about this in the next
excessive.
hour. I'm going to get some of his thoughts on officiating. All right. Before you go,
yes,
a couple of people have chimed in on traveling.
Okay, cool.
Okay, all right. So Sean from Bolton in the UK. Can I ask why the Patriots didn't travel out on Tuesday so they could be fresh by Sunday? I saw an interview from the weekend, and the Bears flew out last Tuesday so that they were fresh.
So this has been their routine. It was their routine for Frankfurt also to fly out on Thursday night for the game. I don't have a good answer for you as to why that is the way that they have done it, but this is, from my understanding, this is pretty common practice.
Okay. Hi, guys. Oliver from the UK. If you're in London for the game, the Ivy Asia at a shopping area called One New Change is a fantastic restaurant and within a stone's throw of St. Paul's Cathedral.
Okay, cool.
There are a ton of great pubs around the area, and you are in the city where business happens and lots of historic buildings can be found. Okay, that's a bonus.
IV Asia.
Can I make a recommendation? I'll make a recommendation.
Yeah.
You need to go see Winston Churchill's bunker.
Oh, okay. Is that cool?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
The coolest thing ever. I'm a history buff anyway.
Yeah.
I love World War II history. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is unbelievable.
Oh, cool.
It really was, because everything is like literally the same.
Yeah.
I haven't hardly touched it
Yeah.
in now 60, 70, 80 years.
Yeah, yeah.
It's unbelievable. He says, I would suggest exploring the area around Bank Station, where all the bankers and other financial services professionals work. Lots of great pubs and venues there. Notice he's gone twice with the lots of great pubs descriptions.
Yeah.
Okay, that cater to them. I work in the area. If you're a tourist, it's worth a visit.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Some ideas there. So there you go.
Yeah, I like that.
Safe travels.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bangers
you.
and mash.
Bangers and mash. I'll see you next
You
week. I'll
got
give
you got to save. You got look one breakfast. I'll make the recommendation for the full breakfast minus the blood pudding.
Yeah, no, that's not up my alley.
You can you can definitely handle the rest of it. Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So you have to try that. Although I'm sure that because my ex-father-in-law was a Brit, and he said, "Well, it's not a full breakfast. It's not a full breakfast if you're not having the blood pudding." I'm like, all right, I'll try a bite, and I'm sorry. It was difficult for me to get through it.
Doesn't sound good.
No, I mean, it's really not as disgusting. It doesn't look like you think it's gonna.
Yeah.
It kind of looked to me like a burnt hash brown.
Okay. That doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah.
All right.
But you know why it's burnt?
No.
Dude.
Why is it burnt?
Blood. Am I wrong? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody in the UK.
It's not actually blood.
Well, it's not like, I'm going to open up a vein here and bleed on it or anything, but no. But that's what it is.
Oh, God. I don't know. It doesn't sound great to me.
Do you eat a steak? Medium?
Yeah. Medium rare.
Medium rare?
Yeah.
There you go.
Same thing.
Well, that's what my father-in-law told me. My ex-father-in-law told me. That's how he explained it.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll take your word for it.
That's how he explained it. Now, again, if I'm wrong, you need to correct me. Because I've been a couple of times, and and I love it. My family heritage is from the UK.
Yeah.
So my family heritage has been traced back to Wales.
Oh, nice.
Largely Wales and Liverpool, which is right across the border anyway from Wales. But that's where my family. In fact, I've been told, and again, I'm sure there's going to be somebody to correct me if I'm wrong, that I probably have literally thousands of cousins, because Rook. My last name is like Smith in the United States.
Oh.
R-O-O-K
Yeah.
is how it's spelled in the UK.
Yeah. You have the
Or
E
R-O-O-K-S.
E.
When my great-grandfather came over on the boat, his name was originally Rooks, which is what my original surname was. But then when he got through
Ellis Island?
Yeah, Ellis Island. The S got dropped, and so it was R-O-O-K, and then my grandfather actually added the E during World War II time because he had a teacher in school tell him that, there's, every surname, that comes from Europe has to end in a vowel.
Oh.
Not true. But that's why, so he added the E to the end of his name. So we've been R-O-O-K-E for, I'd say, 90 years.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I know that's terribly interesting for you.
It was.
And that you can't wait to hear more, but
well, I am going to give you a whole lowdown of my trip to London.
We need the play-by-play. Yeah,
absolutely.
We need the play-by-play. Share some pictures, share some photos on Twitter.
I will.
And so we can kind of make that up, will you?
I will.
All right.
I'll see you next week, sir.
Safe travels, bud.
Bye, Jules.
Yep, you got it. All right, at EZ Lazar, where you find Evan on Twitter with some of that stuff. All right, so I wanted to pass these things along to you. 855-PATS-500, the toll-free telephone number. I gave the number out at the beginning. I've got two guys that are on hold. Jules, are they still there? Do you know? You want to check and see if those guys are still there? And if they want to be on, and I'll put them right onto the show. Okay. And then if you're listening, my request was, if you're in the UK, I'd love to hear from you today. And back up or, go against any of the stuff that I just tried to sell Evan. Did I sell him a load of, you know what? I don't know. But based on my own experiences, that's kind of what the UK is all about. I would love to go. I think, on my bucket list of sports things to do is an EPL, English Premiership League game in the UK. I have been to the second division, but I haven't been to first division because that's where the town we live in, they had a team in the second division. So I didn't get to an EPL game, but I'd love to be able to do that at some point. And like I said, my family background actually comes from Liverpool, right on the Liverpool-Wales border. So I'd love to be able to go back and see that. Now, that's my dad's half of the family. My mom's half of the family is all Swedish and German. There you go. So, yeah, I'm a mutt like every other American, as the case goes, right? Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And the long fall-a-day weekend is almost here. You can get ready for an epic Pats Jaguars matchup by hosting a cozy watch party with Bob's Discount Furniture. Party-ready dining sets for your game day snacks, relaxing, reclining sectionals for your cheering section, Bob-O-Pedic mattresses to dream about the next game. When you shop the Bob's Dare to Compare Challenge, you'll find everything you need and all for way less than the competition. So stop in, see how much you can save when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, those guys still around, Jules? They still, all right. So because he had been waiting the longest, John, you still with us in the playbook?
Hey, John, it's Sean in Vancouver. How are you?
Hey, Sean, nice to hear you, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Thanks for hanging on, by the way, Sean.
Oh, it's fine. You were talking about the full English breakfast. One thing that is included that we didn't mention was back bacon, which in the U.S. you call Canadian bacon.
Canadian bacon,
so
correct.
We call it back bacon.
Back bacon, right. But I actually love back bacon, so I'm good with that. It's really like a flavorful, thin ham, right?
Yeah.
And
to me it's like ham.
I think it's delightful. I love everything about the English breakfast. I'm not a big fan of blood pudding. I got to admit it, but okay, maybe that's just the American in me. But everything else I dig. And I will go to a pub, and to me it's kind of like my visiting diners here in the States. If a diner does good meatloaf, then that diner is where to go. So if a pub in London or anywhere in the UK serves, a tasty banger and mash, I'm in. I'll be back. I'll come back, and I'll keep coming back. So that's kind of where I am with that.
For me, it's a shepherd's pie. That's what I go for in those pubs.
Shepherd's pie is a great option. It's an absolute great option. In fact, I probably should have told that to Evan. But yeah, because with the meat option, you're cooking up a little pork in there as well, and that's that's good along with the vegetables and the mash. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff. I agree with you there.
All right, well, let's get on to the Patriots here.
All right, if we have to. Could be a cooking show, Sean, right?
Could be. We could talk about food all day. But
exactly.
I was wrong. I thought the Patriots would start Drake Maye against the Dolphins. That's what I was thinking before the season even began. But came a week later, and he played. He gave me more than I thought he would give me in terms of hope. So that's always good, and I'm hoping again the Jaguars will get it. He'll do even better because their pass defense is less than excellent. So I'm going to make another prediction. I'll probably be wrong again, but I'm going to say the Patriots win this one 28-17. That's my prediction for London.
Hey, if they, first of all, getting a win, I think, would cure some ills. It's not going to cure every ill.
Yeah.
And the same goes, by the way, for Jacksonville. They're basically in the same shape here, which is why this is liable to be a pretty competitive game. The team that makes the fewer mistakes in a competitive game like this is the one that's going to win. And I think we've known that over the years. So that would tell me then the Patriots would at least make fewer mistakes and would tell me that they're trending in the right direction, whereas Jacksonville will be trending in a different direction. And I've already heard from, 3 or 4, frankly, my college students this week who said, I wouldn't want the Patriots to win because then they won't have the number 1 pick of the draft anymore. And so we're already on to April, and I'm like, you're missing out on an entire football season, and you're missing out on development, and you're missing out on a lot of different things because the season is not necessarily over after just 6 weeks, even though you've started 1-5. And I think that's a byproduct of the modern-day fan. I really do. Well, it's like, what have you done for me lately? And if you haven't done anything lately, I'm moving on to the next already. And
I'm
listen.
Start thinking about the draft in December. The end of December. See what it's like.
It's too soon.
Too early.
It's too soon. I'm like, wow, I don't even want to begin thinking about that yet. That's the biggest issue. No, you don't want to leave that, dude. Evan left his phone behind. So, see ya. Okay.
Yeah, I'll need that.
That might be important.
You can tell him about the shepherd's pie.
Right.
But the other thing that's happened in the news this week is Tom Brady was granted the partial ownership of the Raiders. And to me, like, Tom Brady is the most competitive person I can ever think of. I've met him. But that's just what I know about him. He's just ultra competitive. And in terms of owning the Raiders, like, that's not going to be competitive in terms of winning games, but it is in terms of finance. Like, investing in the NFL is a lucrative investment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then it made me think about being competitive in capitalism, like being the richest billionaire of all time. If you're Elon Musk or whoever it might be, how much do you actually need? Like, couldn't you be competitive in another area that be more helpful to the planet, like be the world's greatest teacher or help people with healthcare, help people? Why don't we move forward from your family's set for generations? That's good. Let's try something else.
I give Tom a lot of credit because he definitely wants to diversify his portfolio, for lack of a better phrase here.
Doing
right?
that. Yeah.
But and it's my understanding, I saw a couple of reports that the breakdown of his ownership percentage is he now owns 5% of the Raiders. Richard Seymour, you remember him?
He was on board. Yeah, he's part of it too.
He also owns 0.5%.
Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, whatever that value is out to, but he's also a player in this. I don't know if they're bringing him in for anything more other than the name notoriety. I do not know whether or not that he can have any, day-to-day handle on this team. Maybe they hope that will be the case, but I'll be honest with you, I think that develops a conflict of interest with his television duties, and he's got a 10-year contract with Fox, so I don't know how much he can have. Clearly, it's been worked out because the ownership had to approve his buying a percentage.
They're probably comfortable with him not getting too involved.
Right, and so that's what that indicates to me is that, okay, he's not going to be spreading out inside knowledge back to the Raiders, especially teams that might all of a sudden appear on the Raiders' schedule upcoming, right? So that has to be a concern. And it just tells me that he's going to be clear of that, at least for the foreseeable future, or at least to the end of this year anyway. And then he might just decide, hey, I'm going into ownership, or the Raiders are going to hire me as GM or player personnel or whatever, which I heard, argued about on the radio here locally today. And I'm like, well, that can't happen just yet because he's under contract to Fox, and he can't do anything for the Raiders because of, inside trading. And by the way, speaking of trading, he didn't do all that well, with Bitcoin and things like that. So I would have to say, look, whoever's advising TB12 right now, okay, diversification is one thing, but, dude, it's great that you got money to burn. I don't. I'm not so sure that investing in an NFL franchise is the way I'd want to go right now.
Yeah, well,
that's just me.
Vegas is a pretty good one because regardless of how the team does, just the location itself has value. So but it is an expensive investment.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to increase in value in a place like Vegas. There's no question about that.
Right.
And I think we can all tell that from the NFL valuations that came out on Forbes about a month or two ago anyway, that everything's going up. I think it's gone up like over the last 2 years, it's gone up like 11% already. So, the Patriots have gone from last year's valuation I saw was 6.7, I believe. This year's valuation was 7.4, but they actually dropped back a spot from second to third amongst the most wealthy franchises on the planet because the Los Angeles Rams moved up into the 2 spot, largely because of the revenue they're generating with SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, it probably holds more people, and it's a bigger market.
Yes.
So you get a bigger
market,
television.
generating more revenue. They got, bigger games to be played out there. They played Super Bowls out there. So, it's eked past them. The Cowboys are the only $10 billion franchise on the planet. And even though they can't get their way, they can't find their way out of a paper bag, And now the owner is, the owner / GM / player personnel director is threatening radio reporters for asking the wrong questions. I'm just like, wow, that's a three-ring circus in its own right there. But they're valuable because they have AT&T Stadium, and they have the Star, and they have all of the periphery around the Star. They built another, small football stadium that they rent out to high schools. They play soccer in. They do a lot of different things, and so that's why they're worth more money.
They still have a very wide international fan base. People love the Cowboys all over the
well,
the 70s.
Yeah, Sean, as you know as well as anybody, that they've been America's team, with my quotation marks around America's team, for the better part of 4 decades now, 5 decades really, since the 70s, right? And the late 70s anyway, and so they still milk that, believe it. They still milk it, although they really haven't been America's team since the days of, Tex Schramm and Tom Landry.
Right. Well, I mean, there was a pretty good team with Aikman in the 90s, so there was that. So that's over 30
that's
years.
Really arguably that's their era of dominance. Even though they were a team in the late 70s, they had some success in the 80s. Then they went south in the 80s, and that's when Jerry Jones stepped in, and then Jerry Jones came in and brought in Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson won 2, and then Barry Switzer piggybacked Johnson's personnel for a third one. So the early 90s were the time that the Cowboys really dominated more so than any other franchise. But but they haven't even been to a Super Bowl since 1995, and yet their valuation still is growing. So, man, if you can add some credibility to the Raiders franchise, which I think that's what Mark Davis wants, because he knows he probably needs that until you're bringing in guys like Brady and Seymour as a part of your quote-unquote minority ownership team. All right, well, at least you're taking a step in the right direction, but actually helping the team on the field, I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
And Brady probably just invested a partial amount of his Fox contract, so he's still in the green. He's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Not worried about that guy.
Yeah. What else? Right. What were your opinions from afar on how May Day last Sunday transpired here?
Yeah, I had zero expectations of the Patriots winning that game. I went to the 49ers game, and I still had a great time because I didn't expect them to do very well. I'm realistic, and I watched this team, so I know how good or bad they are. And they're not good. They're far away. They have a lot of work to do, but I'm here for the ride, as I always have been since as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So the team obviously had a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, but I wanted to see Drake Maye make some plays that'll give me some expectations for the future of success, and that's what he did. He made mistakes. He took sacks, turned the ball over. He threw 2 or 3 interceptions, and I think just 2. But still, he threw 3 touchdowns, and he had over 240 yards.
Yeah.
So he did a lot better than I thought he would. So I'm happy about that, and I'm looking to see him have even a better game in London. Now we'll see if that continues to grow, and if he progresses throughout the season, if he limits his mistakes and is able to make smart decisions from the pocket instead of just on the run. Obviously, I like that as well. I like him moving around and making plays like that, but I want to see him grow and find people before the reads and read the defense and do all kinds of things that would like to see him grow into. So we'll see how much progress he can make in year 1, but it is year 1. So
I think we all need to kind of keep that in mind, to be quite honest with you. I mean, and I think most everyone, at least the people that I talk to, are like, okay, look, if we could just continue to see slow, steady progress, he's going to have some good, he's going to have some bad, but as long as he doesn't get himself killed out there, then we're okay. Yeah. And hopefully the team can figure out a way to build around him. It's the build around him that I'm starting to have a little bit of concern with, because quite frankly, and this is kind of along the lines of what Evan and I were talking about a little while ago, there also has to be a recognition of talent. There has to be identifying the right players that can be the right mix for the talented people that you already have in place here. And guys like Jalen Polk and Austin Hooper, they got to learn to hold on to the ball, and Ramondre Stevenson for that matter. I mean, they may be great guys. They look like they could be good players, but the proof is in the pudding. Every week, and not blood pudding, but proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
And so,
then there's two players at tackles I've never heard of before this season. That pretty much got.
How about your starting center, Sean? How about your starting center?
Center too.
Who heard of Ben Brown before last Thursday?
He don't think he's ever started a game. He's off a practice squad from I forget which team, but
Raiders.
Team.
He was on the Raiders.
The Raiders, right? He was on the Raiders practice squad. I never heard of him.
Hey, maybe that was Tom. Maybe that was Tom. Maybe Tom said, "Hey, they got this guy." You never know.
Yeah, there's.
I don't want to get him in trouble. I don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get him in trouble.
He's not helping the Patriots. No, but they had. Yeah, you're right. He had 3 of 5 offensive linemen in front of him, and he's not getting bashed nearly as much as the previous quarterback. He's able to use his mobility and his strength. Yeah. To make a few things happen where that with Brissett it wasn't the situation. Brissett just took a pounding, and he was able to great for him. He's able to jump up each time.
Right.
But it is a sign that this guy has something where we don't have to worry so much that he's so fragile.
Yeah, for sure.
Take a pounding. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a good sign. So
all right. So
Sunday.
What did you think about the game for this week then?
Yeah, so again, my prediction, and take this with a grain of salt because I'm not great at predictions, but Patriots 28, Jacksonville Jaguars in London 17.
Well, I'd be real happy with the 28 if it happens. So,
like to have keep growing. We had 21 was our highest output last week. Let's go to 28.
For sure.
Do it.
For sure. Hey, Sean, good to hear from you, man. Thanks for calling in.
You too, John. Great speak.
You got it. Sean in Vancouver. Good to hear from him. Patty in Agawam. You still with us, Patty?
Of course I'm still here, John.
Oh, my man. You are unbelievable. You win the award for hanging in there. You and Eldred, are unbelievable with hanging in like that. So thank you for that.
No problem. I had an easy day today. It was a very administrative day, doing a lot of game planning and data entry. Fun. I wasn't out in the field getting my hands dirty, but days like today are somewhat necessary sometimes. But
hey,
I can't
get
complain. I got to sit on hold and listen to most of the show, and part of my French, grab ass with some of my coworkers. So
I get it. I understand that. That's okay. Well, that's what I do when I sit and I have to do computer work, or I'm grading papers or whatever. I listen to student projects all the time because most of my kids are project based, but with some of the stuff they're studying. But then I'll tune into a podcast here and there, or I'm a college basketball junkie as well as a broadcaster, so I will tune in something that's being said by someone else and try to pick up a few things here and there, and sometimes it keeps going on and on and on, and I wonder if it's ever going to end. But I actually sit and enjoy it as long as they're providing me with some information that I didn't know.
Me, when I do it, John, it's all just useless information,
Yeah.
But I want to throw a few things at you, and I'll try and make it quick,
No problem.
Like I always try to do. But for my first question for you, and this is kind of a weird question. It's an outside of the box question. You remember back in '99 when the Browns got reinstated to the league? They got all their old history back. Do you know why? And I'm only asking you this because you're a native Texan, so you're probably you're probably more knowledgeable on the subject than I am. When Houston got awarded the franchise, why didn't they do the same thing with the Oilers? And I'm only asking because
the Oilers
uniform.
Yeah, the Oilers' name and identity when Bud Adams moved the franchise to Nashville went
Tennessee
with the owner. Yes. So all of the Tennessee Titans actually have all of their historical records back to 1960 when the Houston Oilers were born, like when the Patriots were born, belongs to Tennessee. So when they started the Houston Texans, the Oilers were taken. So that's why they had to start fresh.
That's too bad.
I do love it, by the way. I do love it. and the Texans, the Tennessee Titans did this. What was it last week? When they wear the old 1960s AFL Oiler uniforms with the baby blue helmets and the white oil derrick on the side. Man, those are sharp as heck. Love them. Love it. Love you, blue.
Those are one of the best logos ever. Love you, blue.
Love you, blue. Absolutely. You know what I might do one of these days? I think one of these days I will come to the show, since we stream this on camera as well, and I'm going to wear my Earl Campbell throwback.
Yeah, baby.
I think we're gonna have to have a throwback, playbook, and everybody can, send photos of the throwback jerseys that they're on, and we'll have some fun with that before the season's over. And I'll wear mine. I'll wear my throwback because that's one of my prized possessions. So I'm gonna have to be really careful with it because I basically have it in plastic right now.
The only one I have my late father's number 33 Sam Gash jersey from the early to mid '90s.
Is it though the dark blue uniform, the first Flying Elvis uniform?
It's not the first one. It was the one I believe that they broke out in 1995, or it was 95. It was Curtis Martin's rookie year with the logo on the shoulders.
Okay. Well, that was certainly one of the early ones. I'd like to see them. I mean, I know it was really cool to see, the red and Pat Patriot back on the helmet and all that. That was very cool this last weekend. I'd love for them to do a throwback with that royal blue uniform and the Flying Elvises on the shoulders and the italicized numbers. The one that was around when Bledsoe first became quarterback as well. But I think that's the one you're talking about anyway, because originally they were red numbers outlined in white, and it looked terrible on the blue shirt, right?
Yep.
So.
And then the next year they changed to white numbers.
Yes, they changed to white numbers, and they put the italicized slant on it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the throwback. I think a lot of people would really be. I think a lot of people would have fun with having, because I still see those jerseys in the crowd at Gillette in front of me. I saw. What did I see? I saw Sam Gash. Speaking of Sam Gash, somebody had a Gash jersey on. I still see 11 Bledsoes in that color. What's the other one that I saw? I saw. It's slipping my mind now, but I saw 3 or 4 different players from there. I saw a Bruschi one. I saw a Ted Bruschi one.
I know I saw a Ben Coates one the last game I went to last.
Ben Coates, I've seen. I didn't see it last week, but I saw there was a big guy with a Coates jersey on when they were playing the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. Saw that one. Chris Slade, that's the one I'm trying to think of. I saw Chris Slade. And I'm like, wow, now we're throwing back.
Number 53.
Yep, now we're throwing back. So I think those are pretty cool. I'd love to see them come out in those. I think that would be novel because they don't have to change really the helmets on that one.
No, and that goes, and this will be the last bit of uniform talk before I get into some real football. But
this is the fashion playbook. You didn't know that?
I'm probably in a minority here, but I would love to see him go back to the Pat Patriot logo, only because I love the logo, but also you could wear their blue tops that they wear now and the red tops.
Yeah.
Because it's the same design uniform.
Yeah.
And when we wear can we just get rid of the blueberries? Can we just start wearing the silver pants again?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the all blueberry uniforms either. No. I keep waiting for the Oompa Loompas to come out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got to know. Yeah, you got to know a little candy humor there if you don't know the reference. Just Google Oompa Loompa and that'll tell you something. So, right?
Not for the younger crowds.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So I wanted to ask you too, and this will lead into the Patriots.
Okay.
I will make it lead into the Patriots. But what are you thinking this Saturday, Georgia at Texas?
Ooh.
I think that's gonna be a battle. That might be the game of the year so far.
Yeah, dynamite game, dynamite opportunity. I'm glad you brought it up because I purposely every year before Texas plays Oklahoma, Strippers and I, who's a longtime listener and Patriots fan, will get into a little spitting match because he loves Oklahoma. He didn't go there. He's just always been a Sooners fan, and so we'll play it. We'll do a bet or whatever with each other. Like I got to play Boomer Sooner if OU wins, but if Texas wins, he's got to tweet out something on the Longhorns or whatever. I didn't do that this year, and I didn't do that this year for a specific reason, because this was the first time maybe since I've been alive that I really felt strongly that Texas was going to crush Oklahoma, which they did. They didn't even play their best game, and they crushed Oklahoma. Sorry, Strippers, if you're listening, but it's true. You know it. I know it. There was no contest, even though Oklahoma took the first lead against the Longhorns this year that they've given up in 6 games. The game with Georgia, I'm pleasantly surprised with Texas' development. I thought they'd be competitive in their first year in the SEC. I'm stunned that they're number 1 in the nation. I'm stunned. But it shows me a couple of things, that they recruited to the depth that you need to win in a league like the SEC. Not unlike, basically, the NFL light. That's what the SEC really is. And so it really comes down to depth. And the Patriots not only don't have depth, they don't have starters that really are what we'd even call sometimes SEC worthy in this particular regard. I like at home. I like Texas, but I would tell you cautionary by just a little bit, and the reason is because Texas is prone to making mistakes. I don't think they're terribly disciplined on either side of the ball, but right now they just out-talent everybody. If Georgia comes in here and comes into Austin, controls the clock, then Georgia's probably going to win the football game. I think that's the key. I don't think Texas is going to give up the big play, and Texas defense is one of the better ones in the country. So it should be a dynamite game on Saturday night. I think it's on. Is it on ABC or is it on ESPN? I don't even know which one it's on. But
same thing, right?
Yeah, I think I got to go with the Horns in this one, but by only a slight margin, because again the season's not over. It's just week 7. They're 6-0, or week 8, I guess, because they had a bye week in there, and they'll probably have to come back and play, if not Georgia, somebody similar in the SEC championship game. So, that's how I kind of look at it. But it should be an entertaining game, and honestly, for people who watch the NFL, you really should take a good long look at the SEC. And I would say also the Big Ten to a little lesser extent, maybe even some of the Big 12 or some of the ACC. But listen, there's a reason why the SEC players get drafted by the NFL. They're strong, they're fast, they're good. And, I can tell you 2 offensive linemen right now that are SEC players that have to be on the Patriots' radar. One of them is Kelvin Banks at Texas, left tackle. The other one is Cam Williams at LSU, a tackle. Those are 2 guys that I think the Patriots could not go wrong by if they're in a position to draft. And I've already seen a mock draft come out, an absurdly early mock draft come out that says the Patriots are going to go after Travis Hunter from Colorado. Or obviously plays for 2 ways, and he's a tremendous talent. I don't know if that's what they need. I'm going to be very disappointed if we all know they need a lineman and they wait until the 2nd or 3rd round to get one.
I am 100% behind you. And how good is Todd? Not Todd. Sean in Vancouver. I mean, he's grounded, much like I am. Like, I'm patient. And I want to see this team build through the draft.
Yes,
and over the next couple of years. And you just identified it. The guy that I want off. The guy that I think needs to be on this team next year is Kelvin Banks Jr. I mean, he's not just been dominant this year. He's been dominant the last few years. And that's, I mean, I know, you hear a lot of, it's not really hyperbole, but a cliche, a great tight end is a quarterback's best friend. Quarterback's best friend is a great blindside protector. And I just want to see it, I think if we do end up in that area, in the top 3, we could possibly make some moves, accumulate some assets, and still be able to get Banks. And I mean, he's the guy that I want, hands down.
Yeah.
So let's transition into this coming game against Jacksonville. Now, I had brought up a couple weeks ago when I was complaining about Jacoby Brissett still starting that I felt like there was a few games left on the schedule that were pencil-in games, not Sharpie games. Now, when Brady was here, we had Sharpie games. You know, we could just say, yeah, we'll Sharpie this in. This is a win. This is a win. And I said pencil games because you can erase a pencil and say, oh, well, I screwed up. I guess I got that wrong. I'll pencil, erase that and write in loss. But I think this is one of these games that you could probably pencil them in as a winnable game. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they're going to win. But there's this game. There's the game against the Titans. I think the Cardinals. At this point, they're not talented enough, even with a quarterback who I think looks like a modern-day quarterback now,
Yeah.
By first looks of him, I was very impressed. He did kind of what I thought he was going to do, and even surprised me a little bit. Like, he looked like a rookie, but he also made some plays. He made some plays with his arm. You could tell when he was back there, he was reading, he was going through his progressions. He made some plays with his legs, too.
Yep.
And just personally, I think this Jaguars team might be falling apart. It's just a gut feeling that I get. I think they might be having a fire sale come the trade deadline. And honestly, I think Paulie brought it up on Patriots Unfiltered. Like, he didn't say, like, he felt this way, but he said, maybe they feel like they don't want to be there anymore. They don't want to be in London anymore. They just want to get the hell out of there.
Well,
and if that's the mindset,
yeah, I agree with you. I think that's obviously that's going to play a little in the Patriots' favor. I know that in theory, Jacksonville should have a bit of an advantage because they've been there for a week. They've already played a game, but at the same time, they were disappointed in the loss. They traded a player away and sent him to Seattle, and you had to wonder if they by this time don't just want to go home. And so I could listen if they don't start off well. In other words, if the Patriots don't hand it to them, give them an easy score, give them a quick lead. I could see the Jags losing interest in this game really quickly, and that may be the Patriots' best weapon.
Yeah, I could totally see that scenario playing out. They did get off to a pretty good start against the Bears last week.
They did,
and then just completely got demoralized.
Yeah,
yeah,
and true.
What I would like to see happen, too, is I wouldn't mind seeing Jacksonville jump up and take an early lead. And I would like to see how Drake Maye, reacts. I would like to see how this offensive coaching staff reacts and see if we're good enough to counter them, And I don't know, there's so much I want to see. I can't fit it all in one phone call, John.
You're 100% right. So the best thing I think we can say here is that class is still in session for 2024.
Oh yeah.
Right? You want to see a little bit. You want to progress a little bit every week. I appreciate you, Patty and Agawam. I appreciate you a lot. Jules, do you have Russell's little signature open there on hand? Why don't we play that?
A real woman could stop you from drinking.
You have to be a real big woman.
It's time to go around the NFL with football guru Russell Baxter.
From now on, your name is Flounder.
On Patriots Playbook.
Flounder.
I didn't want to leave you hanging any longer, Russell, but I wanted to try something a little bit different here because you and I usually don't get this opportunity, only because we get off, and I think people, frankly, just like listening to the conversation. But he's also been holding on for a while, so say hello to our friend Eldred in North Carolina.
Hello, Eldred. How are you? I'm good. How are you? So what do we think this week? Okay. No, that's right. If you've learned anything about the National Football League in since free agency, there is no pencil in, Sharpie in, whatever you want to call it, chisel in. You can't take anyone for granted. All it takes is a couple of plays and a couple of turnovers, and all of a sudden the pressure's on. So we shall see. Yeah, I mean that's the fun of sports. That's and I'm actually in the process of writing something up about the usual look at the schedule in May and forecast wins and losses, like some of my media brethren like to do, and of course when they were doing that for the Patriots. Did they know Davante Adams was going to be joining the AFC East? Did they know Amari Cooper was going to be joining the AFC East? Now, if they knew that, I'd be going to those people for Powerball numbers. The hell with the football.
All right. Well, I only got one side of that conversation because the way our phone banks are set up, but I wanted Eldred to be able to at least get a little bit of a question for you, Russell, since he's always kind enough to hang on, and he's always.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's always asking stuff. So I appreciate
I don't know your list of all-time loyal followers.
Yes,
Eldridge might be 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, well, I think Eldred has been an original listener since the first season, and you've been around since then as well. So why not? We need to hook up again one of these days between the three of us and have a nice discussion.
Absolutely. Well, maybe we can talk about the election in 3 weeks. So. No, thank you.
No, I don't know. Is there a scarier night on the calendar other than Halloween? Yes, it's called election night.
Yes, that's exactly right. Which the ironic part, a lot of people get unmasked. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
By the way, I got to ask you, John, while I got you here. During your segment, you were talking about Texas football.
Yeah.
And you described Texas players as strong, something, and good. I missed the second word.
I don't even remember. What the hell did I say?
I don't know. All I know is when you said strong and good, all I could think of was an Irish coffee. So.
That's also true. Or maybe, a nice, I don't know, Smithwick's or Guinness, at the local pub down the street. Right?
I remember being at the Super Bowl. It was actually 30 years ago now that I think of it. The Super Bowl at Joe's Stone Crabs, one of the great places you'll ever eat on the face of the earth. And someone brought over coffee with Kahlua and Bailey's. And my first reaction was, yeah, that caffeine will kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Right? Oh, I love that.
I don't think I got through the whole thing, but someone else finished it for me. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so the first couple of things, really, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about this week is your perspective on rookie quarterbacks and whether or not, starting them right away if they're a higher draft pick or letting them kind of, look over the landscape for a while, and if that doesn't benefit them, because I think we've seen it work both ways. I just want to know if you have any historical perspective that you might add, which type of, rookie, when they get their start, when they get it, how much does that really affect his future playing?
Well, what I think it depends on a lot of times is, and I think in the case of the Patriots, at least my own perspective is, you not only had a rookie quarterback, you had a rookie head coach. So, I think a rookie quarterback comes in like Bo Nix is in with Sean Payton, who's been around. Okay? Listen, Peyton Manning started from the get-go and took his penance. I think he still owns the rookie record for interceptions in the season, and then we all know what he went on and did. Patrick Mahomes made one start as a rookie because they had Alex Smith, and then he came on like gangbusters. So there is no necessarily rhyme and reason. I think what you do see now is, because the college passing game is so prevalent and wasn't so when you and I were watching football, a century ago, that players come in here more acclimated as far as the quarterbacks go in terms of the passing game.
Yeah.
Now, the ironic part in the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years is we've seen a lot more running quarterbacks coming in the league, and that now I think enables them to have something to fall back on, which is actually very, very good for these young men. So there is no, the historic precedent is the fact that there is no precedent. And the fact is that depending on the kind of talent you have, like even Lamar Jackson, now, the way they did Lamar Jackson in Baltimore was very similar to the way Colin Kaepernick, and it was Greg Roman in both instances, and Colin Kaepernick was kind of groomed. Remember, he was kind of a gadget player.
Sure, yeah.
And then eventually Lamar Jackson took over for Joe Flacco, just like Colin Kaepernick took over for Alex Smith, although Alex Smith got hurt that year, and they wind up, in the Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, Kaepernick's second year, I believe he was drafted in 2011. They went to the Super Bowl in 2012. So, I just think it depends on the total set of circumstances for these guys. But I think when you have like Jaden Daniels is doing very well. He's got an experienced offensive coordinator who was a head coach in Cliff Kingsbury. He also has an experienced head coach in Dan Quinn, who was a guy who took the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it all depends on the total circumstances and so on. You have the coordinators, and Matt Eberflus in Chicago, he's been there a few years. So now, to me, the anomaly is a rookie head coach like DeMeco Ryans and a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud and what they were able to do last year.
Yeah, right. To me, that's what stands out, as well, because, clearly high draft pick, started out, Davis Mills was that quarterback. He came in and he took off like gangbusters. I don't know that there's a definitive process really to go. It's almost like, almost a roll of the dice. I think a lot of it probably has to do with, the talent that they're surrounded by. And I understand why the Patriots brought Maye along more slowly. And Gerard Mayo said as much, actually earlier today when he said, we had some concerns with the offensive line. And I'm paraphrasing really, but, there comes a point in time when, you got to push has to shove. And it has to, get out in the open, because you don't want to waste an entire rookie season that's under your control, salary contract wise. And so,
and I think it benefits the Patriots to do it this way instead. I mean, let's say no predictions, no schedule, anything like that. They're sitting at 3-11 at the end of the year, okay?
Yeah.
And then they decide to throw him in there the last 3 games.
I don't know how that helps. I don't know how something like that would help. You're right. I don't see. I mean, you're going to get time, but I mean, are teams really going to be going 110%? Especially if you're 3-11, you got no shot of going anywhere, and the teams you're playing are likely could be playoff teams themselves, and they're saving up.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, I remember Eli Manning. Kurt Warner's the quarterback in 2004, and then Eli came in. I think for the last 7 games, he lost all of them. I think except one. But they were in the playoffs soon afterwards in 2005. In his second year, I know they lost to Carolina. 2006, I think they lost to Philadelphia, and then 2007 they won the Super Bowl. So there is no rhyme or reason. And again, I think a lot has to do with what you have around you. Unfortunately for the Patriots, they're still rebuilding everything else around him.
Yep. All right, so Drake Maye makes his debut. The Patriots still are beaten, but I think most fans feel like they've gotten some value. In other words, they feel like there's something to watch. There's something to look forward to. There's a little bit of excitement, left in a team that's out to a disappointing start. Speaking of disappointing starts, I think there are a lot of people that consider Jacksonville to certainly be playoff caliber based on the way that they ended last year, and it's gone south in a hurry for those guys. Wow, and now they got to play back-to-back games in London. I'm wondering how interested they're going to be to play this game.
Well, listen, remember, this was a team that rallied to make the playoffs in 2022. They were 4-8. They won the last 5 games. Then they rallied, ironically, from 27 down to beat the Chargers in the wild card game, gave Kansas City a fight last year.
Yeah.
One time they were 8-3. Okay?
Yeah.
And history has actually repeated itself for the Jaguars. Last year, they lost 5 of their last 6 games. This year, they've lost 5 of their first 6 games. So this is a team that's 2-10 in its last 12. And, defensively, pretty deplorable, to be honest with you. I mean, they finally got a win the week before against the Colts in Jacksonville. And by the way, they've beaten the Colts as a home team 10 years in a row, even one team in London. So they but yet at the same time gave up 34 points in that game. They wind up giving up 35 to the Bears. They made their share of mistakes, but defensively, I mean, they're a sieve. And they're a team I think the Patriots could get well against in terms of their own offense. And this is what, by the way, this is what Jacksonville did last year. They played back-to-back games in London. And one week they're the home team, one week they're a road team. Last week they were the road team against the Bears. They're the home team against Jacksonville. But the Jaguars, they looked interested for about 2.5 quarters last week. And again, defensively, they just don't have much. And earlier in the season, they did play defensively a lot better. They were in a nail biter with Miami, lost at the end. But you go back, listen, even a couple of weeks ago, they went up to Buffalo on a Monday night and got tagged 47-10. So there's a lot of issues surrounding this team. I'm not sure exactly when the wheels went off. A lot of people like to blame Trevor Lawrence being banged up down the stretch last year for their issues. But Trevor Lawrence hasn't been banged up this year. So not sure what exactly is going on. And in a division where Houston is the top dog, but you would think, I mean, remember last year, Jacksonville was 9-8. Indianapolis was 9-8. The weak link was Tennessee. Now all of a sudden you got, the Colts are keeping their head above water, but Tennessee and Jacksonville, Tennessee finds ways to lose games. Jacksonville just doesn't find anything right now. So I'll be curious to see what they look like this weekend. And like you said, how long they hold interest.
Right.
I hate to see a team kind of, abandoning things 6-7 weeks into the season, but there's just something seems off there. And, when your defense is that bad, it's hard for the offense to keep up.
Sure. All right. So a couple of games really that have caught my fancy for Week 7 here. Texans playing at the Packers, which looks like a pretty good inter-conference matchup. But maybe the best game of the whole weekend is what Chris Berman would describe as an NFC Norris battle. The Lions are 4-1. The Vikings are 5-0. Man alive, I never thought I'd get pumped by a Lions-Vikings game, but I think I might be.
And the division is 17-5. Think
Crazy.
about that for a second.
Crazy.
17-5. Every team is at least 2 games over 500. In fact, here's just think about this for a second. The Vikings have the best record in the NFC. The Lions have the second best record in the NFC.
Yep.
The Vikings are plus 63 in point differential, best in the league. The Lions are plus 60 in point differential. Got a big boost last week, obviously. They're second in the league. So, and this division this year, this is only the second time 2 teams in the division are playing each other in 7 weeks.
Wow.
So there's a lot to look forward down the road. I think we might have mentioned this last week. A lot got made about Pittsburgh playing 6 of its last 8 games against the division. Well, the Bears are in the same category. They play 6 of their last. They don't play a divisional foe until week 11. So the Bears, I'm not saying the Bears will win the division. I'm not saying the Bears will be in the playoffs. But the Bears are going to have probably the biggest say in this division because of their late season schedule. But this is huge. Holding serve at home is very important in Minnesota. They were able to beat Green Bay at Green Bay a couple of weeks ago, held on for dear life. If they hold serve here at home, which will not be easy, okay, and I know Aiden Hutchinson is now gone, but this Lions attack, my goodness, their 1-2 rushing combination of Gibbs and Montgomery. That's scary for about any defensive front. And, of course, the Lions' offensive line is terrific. Jared Goff has been sensational. And this is a confident football team. And we haven't been able to say that about the Lions for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a dry spot when, A, you're the only NFC team not to appear in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And B, your last NFL championship came before I was born.
Did those Super Bowl hopes take a blow with Aiden Hutchinson going out?
No, they have. That's interesting. Now, unless I've missed something, they have not put him on IR for the year. Now, they're saying he's going to miss the rest of the season. Is that the regular season?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, listen, you and I are old school. It's not like we haven't seen anybody play football with a broken leg before.
Rub some dirt on it and let's go.
Okay. That would be Jack Youngblood.
Yeah.
In the '79 playoffs, who broke his leg against Dallas, played with that broken leg against the Buccaneers, played against the Steelers with a broken leg.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt. Bactine. I always go back to Bactine.
Wow.
Just spray some Bactine on it; it'll be fine.
Yeah, right. Put a little mercurochrome, right?
Mm.
I gotta like that one. What are your thoughts about the Houston Texans after they come out of here and they're 5-1 overall? They got to go on the road and play a pretty good Green Bay team based on what we've seen, of them through 6 weeks thus far. Should Houston be considered a true contender in the AFC?
Well, their tougher tests come later in the year. I think they actually play the Ravens and the Chiefs in the back-to-back weeks, as a matter of fact. So we shall see. I mean, listen, they had Buffalo 20-3. They let Buffalo came back. Bad clock management by the Bills. Houston won the game. I think there's still skepticism. Now, they blew out the Patriots last week.
Yep.
Okay? But their previous 4 wins came by a total of 15 points, all really close games. And, of course, they went to Minnesota earlier this year and got their doors blown off, 34-7. So I think there's probably still a little trepidation there. And listen, going to Green Bay, obviously not an easy task. Jordan Love, remember he's really kind of still rounding into form. He played in the opener against Philadelphia and Brazil. He missed the next 2 games, but he's been pretty hot. But I believe he's thrown at least an interception in every game he's played this year. So that comes with being strong-armed and being aggressive, and threw the ball beautifully last week against the Cardinals. Don't get me wrong. But he will make obviously the occasional mistake.
Right.
The Texans, I think this is, I don't want to say it's a statement game for them, but it would probably be a make amends win for them to get that bad taste out of that, like I said, really ugly loss to the Vikings earlier this year.
Right. All right, so the aforementioned Chiefs, they got to play at San Francisco. Is this potentially the week that somebody beats them? And what are the chances that the remnants of the 72 Dolphins, of which I know we just lost Mercury Morris not too long ago, but what are the chances this is the weekend they celebrate, keeping their 17-0 season perfect?
Well, they would have to get Minnesota and Kansas City to lose.
To lose, right.
Okay, because Minnesota is obviously 5-0.
Right.
But what's interesting about this is, doesn't it seem like the Chiefs and the 49ers play each other every year, even though one's in the AFC and one's
in the AFC, right, yeah.
It's not your imagination.
Yeah.
This is the 5th time in the last 7 years these teams will play. Obviously, 2 of them are in the Super Bowl. But the key number here is 4, as in 4-0.
Yeah.
As in Andy Reid is 4-0 against Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah,
remember they went out to San Francisco a couple years ago on a Sunday night and whacked the Niners in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's obviously no fear here.
Right.
Okay, and why would you be fearsome? Now, we finally saw for the first time since the playoff game against Miami last year, John, that the Chiefs won a game like semi-going away against the Saints on Monday night. Now, that was a week and a half ago. What's interesting about this is, we know Andy Reid's always had a great record after a bye. Both of these teams had extra time to prepare for this game.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs 2 weeks. The 49ers a week and a half. Remember, they played on a Thursday night at Seattle last time we saw them.
Right. That's right, they did. All right, then I'll put it to you this way. Who's more likely to still be unbeaten after this week? Vikings against the Lions at home or the Chiefs playing at the 49ers?
I think the Chiefs playing at the 49ers.
Okay.
I think Detroit's in a big-time role. They beat the Rams in Week 1 in overtime, which, if you remember the game, it's 2020, and the Lions got the ball, and all they did was run, right into the end zone. That was it for the Rams. And then they lost at home to the Buccaneers, which they made a few too many mistakes, and they've been kind of rolling ever since. Like I said, that running game is very, very potent. It's funny, Sam Darnold, great story so far. You could make a case of a comeback player of the year candidate and so on. This team has been very forward, but they do turn over the football. And that's something that's always, to me, obviously a little concerning. Now, it's great that they have, and to their credit, they have 13 takeaways this year. Pretty good. But the Vikings had turned over the ball 9 times in 5 games.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Yeah.
So can they play that style of football again and get away with it against a Detroit team that, I think the only thing they didn't play they didn't run last week, was something from the Little Giants. Okay?
Right.
They pulled out all the stops and embarrassed the Cowboys last week. And again, it's a style of football they kind of have to play because I'm not totally sold on their defense as well.
Sure.
Okay, we saw Seattle give them a fight. You can throw the ball against them, and I'm sure the ball's going to get thrown a lot against them with Aiden Hutchinson out. But they're a very physical football team, and that offensive line, to me, has yet to be really challenged by anyone.
Right.
Again, they lost to the Buccaneers at home earlier in the season, but at the same time, the offensive line has been the star of that team.
Sure. Right. All right. Before I let you go, we actually have some semi-breaking news here. The contributor category for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 25 was released just a short time ago. Mr. Kraft is on that list. He's one of the 25 candidates overall, but I think the competition is going to be stiff again because included in making this cut of 25, which is going to be cut down further to 9 in a couple of weeks, Roone Arledge, who obviously is the executive at ABC, who helped popularize Monday Night Football back in the day, and Howard Cosell.
Yes. And I think Roone Arledge has the Pete Rozelle Award. Okay, now just so different. There are awards given out by the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
The Joe Horrigan Award, the Pete Rozelle Award. That doesn't make you a Pro Football Hall of Famer. It makes you an award winner. This is different. This is a contributor class, which is huge. And by the way, since we're dropping names off the list, my friend Chris Berman is on that list.
On the list, and I will drop the name of John Facenda, who really has been, I think, for a lot of football fans, the voice of God, even though he passed away, early 80s, I think it was? Late 70s?
It's funny. And Facenda, I believe, is another Pete Rozelle Award winner.
Right.
And it's funny, John, I was born in Philadelphia, grew up in the Poconos for most of my life, but we got all the Philadelphia stations there. And John Facenda was the local news anchor.
Isn't that great?
On the CBS affiliate.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
So, he presented he presented every day was Super Bowl Sunday when you were getting the news and the traffic from John Facenda. But of course, NFL Films, which is based in New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, the connection and was perfect. And my goodness, anything. All you have to do is say the word "the autumn wind," and that's John Facenda.
Right.
So.
No question. Russell, thank you for the time today, my friend. Always appreciate you.
All right. And tell Eldridge I said hi, and we'll do that again.
Awesome. Would love to do that. The one and only Bax Football Guru. At BAX Football Guru on X is where you find his info. Russell Baxter, the one and only. All right. So we mentioned the late breaking news, if you will, here with Robert Kraft being on the list of 25, shall we say, semifinalists for the contributors category in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the class of 2025. And that list will be pared down to 9 finalists in about 2 weeks. But I'm going to give the last word of the day to the man who's been holding on again in the one and only Eldred in North Carolina. Eldred, what's up today, brother?
Not much, sir. Just off, enjoying the day off. How you doing?
Good for you. Good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So,
what did you think of Drake Maye last week?
Like I said, I'm gonna let Evan do his little dance around the desk. Let him do that. But just like I said, the talent is there. It's just he make you go 1 minute, and then what the heck the next minute, and it's the accuracy problem, But I'm glad he came in. He gave us a boost, 21 points, 240 something yards. I liked it. And I'm glad they didn't have the training wheels on. I just want to see him get more accurate and and take the layups sometimes, and just do that. And then make me buy a Drake Maye jersey. Like I keep saying, I ain't from Missouri, but you got to show me. I've seen this for 2 years, about the same. He'll wow you, then whatever. But one thing I like about him, he's tough. He's really tough. And he can be somewhere, But I'm still holding out just to see. And I just hope Mr. Wolf help the team out. Not just the kid, help the team out. I mean, all kinds of trades going on. I'm pretty sure you can come up with something with a tackle. You have to, or ex-receiver. Maybe not need them right, but some of that line just give us a little bit of hope in a middle linebacker, somebody that can stop a run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely need some. They definitely need some help with that. There's no doubt about that. That's got to happen, and shows you how much they miss Barmore's presence in the middle and how they miss everything. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show today, but they really miss that presence up the middle defensively. Barmore, Bentley, Peppers, they missed that, and I think that's a large reason why Houston was able to bounce out some runs. I mean, Houston had two 40, 50-yard runs last week that just should not happen.
Exactly.
That should not happen, and it did. And so the defense has got to look at themselves too. It hasn't just been offensive struggles; it's been defense over the last couple of weeks, and it's time for some other fellas to step in there.
Yeah, my question is. I know the coach and the Brian's already on the team is Steve, right? Steve Belichick, right? I reach out to him and say, hey, buddy, I need you to be on the defense.
Yeah.
Covenant, okay, I understand, rookie too, whatever. Rookie hit, play calling or whatever. But I be talking to Steve right now. I be talking to him. Him and Mayo was best of buddies and this and that, I understand the way things happen. He might not want to come to the team, but you need him. You need somebody else, another set of eyes. Because whatever they're doing, it just ain't working. Unless, like the report is, the guys are freelancing, then you need to put the hammer down.
Yeah.
Even though we ain't got the players, you need to put the foot up their butt or something. You need to do something.
Yes, sir.
So they can play like they're supposed to.
Yeah,
this
speaks directly to the discipline that we've talked about.
Yes, sir. Exactly. And I understand some guys want theirs because money time is coming up or whatever. But you still got to do the team. And I understand you want your career to go farther too, though.
Yep.
I do understand that too. But you still got to stop the other team.
Yep.
But my question is, we're the real, unless we done seen it, Tyquan Thornton. You got a chance to step up, dude. Why you ain't stepping up?
Yeah.
And Tyquan Underwood, why you not getting the best out of him? Or whoever the wide receiver coach is.
Yeah.
You got too much speed to be a dud. Unless you don't want to be here.
Well,
that's all I can think of.
I think honestly that's Elder. That's an absolute legitimate question, and I can only answer it by saying, a staple of football, as you know, you got to show it in practice. And I can only gather that he's not doing what he needs to do in practice to show that he can be dependable and or reliable, in those situations. I mean, it looks to me like they've kind of got their receiver rotation getting set here. And even Jalen Polk is in danger of not being in there after a while because he can't hold on to anything right now. So that's an issue. Maybe he gets another shot, Tyquan Thornton, if, Polk can't cure his case of the dropsies. I mean, it's time for everybody to step up and show what they got. This entire season really should be an extended training camp above anything else, simply because they're not going anywhere. But I would also tell you that I think the belief in that locker room is that, hey, there's still something to be made and something to be had in this season. We'll find out, I guess, starting this week, right? starting this week. Hey, as we know, football season is here. Sullivan Tire and Auto Service kicks things off in a big way with our exclusive Go Patch Tire sale. Now through October 31st, you can score big with incredible savings on Bridgestone tires. Save $100 instantly with a purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Bridgestone, the official tire of the New England Patriots. You can see sullivantire.com for complete details, and go Patriots. This reminder, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Our thanks to Mike DiRocco, who covers the Jaguars for ESPN.com. Our own Evan Lazar, Russell Baxter for jumping around the NFL for Week 7. Julianne, nice job today. Stepping in for the Marine, but Jules, excellent job. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Same Pat's time, same Pat's channel. Next Wednesday here on the Playbook, we'll get Evan's report on which pubs he favored and which pub food he liked best out of the UK. And then, it's a rematch with the JETS. Can it be different the next time around? That's on the agenda next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.